Why does Eric Pachman need to see this Eric Markowitz and Elie Jacobs clip? You're watching Just Press Record. This is Cultish Creative YouTube. Do you know he doesn't even believe in serendipity? Here I am showing him a clip about it. Go figure. That's serendipity for you. But should any of us really, in this modern, as he called it, the U.S., the United States of Las Vegas, the state of financial nihilism we find ourselves in, the endless vibe sessions that we seem to be going through? Well, he says the answer is choosing awareness, choosing our teachers and coaches, and accepting accidents. And that means all of them. Jack Forehand, let's roll some clips.
Our minds, since they're so flawed from like, they always want to assign cause and effect to everything. So it's like, oh, that happened, then this happened. But in reality, there are accidents happening like literally every second, or probably multiple ones per second. We just don't notice it then. This gentleman, when she was, I guess, in her teens or early 20s, he got in a motorcycle accident and died. And so more than likely she would have been his life partner, dead. Then she meets my dad, and then boom, I'm here. Now I'm talking to you. I have 3 kids. They're going off, doing what they're doing, whatever. I mean, it was like this entire branch of like the metaverse tree or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, ooh, I'm pretty smart today. That was a good visualization I put together. I want your fucking accident. Like, you think it shouldn't even be here, like, right? I mean, that guy had died in a motorcycle accident. So it is a nice kind of like counterbalance whenever we kind of think we're like a little too, like, think back, go talk to your parents. And then realize how much of an accident you are and like how, arbitrary all this is. And then maybe it just helps me not take myself too seriously.
I don't really see any difference between me and someone that's in the circumstances in life where they need to be on snap. And so it's just so hard for me to understand how there are so many people out there that can't understand that there are just random accidental circumstances in our lives that have led us to be where we are, but that can work the opposite way. And who are we to not want to give back and support?
You're watching Just Press Record right here on Cultish Creative YouTube, the show where I normally take 2 strangers from my network of misfits, miscreants, and mysteriously curious people that I think I have to meet. But this is a oh snap, guess what I saw special episode where I invite one of my prior guests back and I show them a clip from another episode that I have to get their take on, because you can network ideas as much as you can network people, my peoples. Don't forget that. Who's with me today? Well, he's going to help me dissect this clip. So does this guest have a fear of dying and not being remembered, or being remembered only as a cautionary tale? Maybe, but cheers to not dying of thirst during this podcast. Cheers to that, Aaron. Cheers to this. Or maybe you can find this guest under his perfect shady refuge, which doubles as both escapist fantasy and critique of living for the come up under his, of course, money tree, the one on your side of the camera. I want you to live forever. Okay, brother? And definitely live from his mad city, somewhere in Ohio. Is Cincinnati mad? I think so. Dayton's even more mad, proving we can get along. And I really hope you don't get gunned down. Every time he's on the pod, he goes, yeah. Eric Pachman, welcome back to Just Press Record.
Thank you, man. Always enjoy to be back.
Hey man, you've made some changes in life. I feel like every time we record, I find out there's some pivotal moment that's changed. I can't talk anymore today. I hope this is okay with you.
This is fine. I'm in the middle of, I just wrote on Reclaiming Soulfulness, which is my personal blog, that I feel like I've locked myself in this like dark dungeon of data analytics. And so I'm not sure if I'll be able to form sentences very well either, but yes, I have had a career change. Another one, my track record is pretty much every 2 years. So I've lived many professional lives for my 46 years. But right now I'm still in the transition period, and I'm going to hesitate on telling you too much about what I'm doing, but I am launching a website called Data for the People. I'm hoping that will come later this year, maybe early January at the latest. There's a lot of data sets that are out there that are not necessarily to the investing public, which was my limitation before at Dan Creek, that I think can really help move the needle in a positive direction from a policy standpoint, for people that are really willing to pay attention and drill in and, roll up their sleeves and read, like these kind of what I'm known for. But the data sets just don't get a lot of love. Like there's not a lot of money to be made from them or whatever. So I just really want to unearth what I can find within them. The first one that I'm starting with is the SNAP program. So that's food stamps, but a lot of people have been talking about SNAP. There's so much misinformation out there right now, but good luck trying to find like any free visualizations that will compare SNAP to the poverty level by county or by state, and looking at by political control from governments and stuff like that. Like that's the stuff that I'm trying to do right now. And I probably shouldn't say any more because there's going to be there's some pretty crazy takeaways that I'm finding from this. And it's making me very, very sad about this public benefit, and not in the way that like, a whole bunch of dead people are getting it, but in a way that so much more underutilized than I think we really understand relative to the number of people that are in poverty. So there, I just gave you the spoiler alert actually. So sorry.
We'll take the spoiler. We'll break some news on here. I just think it's really cool that you had an idea where you're looking at a lot of different data sets, the inflation data, housing data, all these areas from an economic perspective. And your brain once again went, wait, there's so much more.
Yeah.
Much like, and if people haven't seen it, we did an intentional investor together. We went into your story and about, founding the nonprofit, all the cancer research, all the drug pricing research that went into that is all on display there. And now here you are again back on the warpath for the good fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how long I last with it. Like it's really, I was just talking to someone today. And I mean, I feel like that I'm holding this like hot ball of fire. Like I get so angry when I'm doing this analytics because, and I'm sure we'll get into this in the topic of conversation today, but like, I don't really see any difference between me and someone that's in the circumstances in life where they need to be on SNAP. And so it's just so hard for me to understand how there are so many people out there that can't understand that there are just random accidental circumstances in our lives that have led us to be where we are, but that can work the opposite way. And who are we to not want to give back and support so we as a species can be as strong as humanly possible? I just don't understand. And then there's so many people, maybe I'm just focusing on the wrong stuff, which is social media, but there's so many people that are so angry about, I don't want to give away my taxpayer dollars and blah, 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 and go get a job and work hard. And I'm like, dude, that is such an ignorant view. And it can only be seen from your perspective on life, which includes like 17 billion different decisions and moments that have happened in your life to lead you to where you are right now. And how do you not see that? And so like when I'm analyzing this, and then there's so much anger around something that is like, should be like public service. And, and it's just the start of it, right? I mean, I could look at the free and reduced public lunch. I could look at income inequality. There's all sorts of stuff that needs to be looked at. But the fact that this is all so toxic is very disturbing. And so that's why I said, we'll see how long it lasts, because like, I can only do so much, because like I hold the ball of fire and I use it to kind of create generate the creativity, energy to like push me forward with this work. And then all of a sudden, like you come out of the flow and you're like, oh my God, like where did all this work come from? But then I feel like I've been burnt by the fire. Like I'm just like mentally and physically exhausted, which is kind of like where I am right now. So I don't know. I'm still trying to come up with like coping mechanisms to be able to like do this type of work.
You need coping mechanisms to do that type of work and not burn out, because they are, in one sense, like they are solvable problems, which was what will burn you out, because they are unsolvable in just the size of the task in front of you when you start pulling this. I'm taking this as a perfect segue.
Yeah.
We're going to watch this clip. You're going to see if you can guess why I wanted to show this to you. But this is from a conversation I had with Elie Jacobs and Eric Markowitz. Do you know Elie or Eric at all?
I don't. I do not know.
Fantastic, because this means I'm going to have even more reason to introduce you. Eric is an investigative journalist by trade in the hedge fund industry, also still a writer, still doing all sorts of work. But he is fascinated by this idea of creating things that last and how so much of the things that are durable come from almost totally unpredictable things that go into the original inputs.
Yeah.
Elie, on the other hand, and we get part of his story in this clip, is a strategist who largely focused on political strategy, but for organizations. Like, how do you deal with crisis management when all of a sudden a policy goes completely against you or completely for you? What the hell do you do to handle these shifts? And they're both deep in the trenches. So that being said, you ready to check this clip out with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Jack Forehand, he said the words, roll the clip.
The word you're getting at, I think, is just serendipity. And I just keep finding that across,
Over and
you know,
over.
my career, my whole life is just, you know, the permanent value of serendipity and just kind of giving yourself enough surface area in your life to enable more serendipity.
My career is based on the fact that I responded to an ad that the New Yorker had reprinted from Columbia University. They had written, this is fall of 2001. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I had, you know, after 9/11, I, you know, total cliche, packed the bag of GMAT books, LSAT books, whatever. Went to Israel for a couple of weeks. And then at some point my parents were like, okay, that's enough. That it's time to try to be a little bit of an adult, which I think I'm probably still trying to do. But I was reading the New Yorker and there was an article, you know, talk of the town, kind of that tongue in cheek section. There was an article about how President Clinton's office had put out, and his office in Harlem had just opened. They put out an ad to the Columbia Poli-Sci Department looking for interns. Clinton looking for interns. Like, you know, think back to that time period.
Yeah.
But they reprinted the ad. I sent in a resume to that reprint of the ad. And that's how I ended up in the president's office. And my whole career is based on that, like momentarily like, hey, what the hell? Doesn't cost me a stamp to send this thing in. And basically every opportunity since then is sort of this, like, it's all built on that, but it's also just getting out there and like figuring it out, right?
You need that unstructured meandering. Like, it's one thing for AI to be able to group unstructured data together and help us navigate or digest it. But this unstructured meandering, like with people, when you put 3 people in the room, that 3-body problem is a really cool 3-body problem to put them at the bar and see what happens, because you really don't know where anything's going to go next. So, I mean, we start with Eric talking about the permanent value of serendipity. We transition to Elie. The whole career story is just fantastic. It reminds me a little bit of some of yours. And then, of course, we got a little clip of me there tagged on at the end about just, you got to just let things bump into each other and see what the hell happens. I mean, first reflections. Let's start there. What are you thinking? What's this clip make you think of?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I have 2 thoughts. So first of all, it's like, this is my life, right? So, so I resonate with it a lot. But then going back to what I said before the clip, you know, it makes me, the broader my perspective has been on humanity's struggles and where I fit into that. The more I think that, I don't know if I believe in serendipity. Like, serendipity is for people who it's just accident, right? Serendipity is just accident, but it's like positive accident, and like wonderful things can grow out of accidental meetings and this and that. And that's great. And that's like what happened with me and you. That was just serendipity, right? But what are all of the kind of stages and steps and experiences and privileges that I've had through my life that led me to that? Whereas, like, if I was born, you know, of a family of crack addicts, you know, and in a state like, spoiler alert, you know, Wyoming, that won't provide me with SNAP benefits because they say, go fuck yourself, you know, whatever they're doing, I don't know. The accident would be very different, right? I mean, instead of like, you know, going out and saying, well, I need to say yes to all these different experiences. Sure, I'm going to say yes to taking a meeting with Matt, and that leads to this. And then I meet this person. I'm going to say yes to that and yes to this. And like all of a sudden, data for the people gets formed. Well, if I'm born into a different set of circumstances on the other side of the spectrum, I'm going to say yes to, you know, getting involved in a gang. I'm going to say yes to selling dope. I'm going to say yes to like, you know, taking crack with my parents. I'm going to say, and then what path does that take me? So, I mean, I really think that life is just a culmination of like millions upon millions upon millions of accidents. And, you know, people like us and probably people listening to this podcast are the beneficiaries of, if you open up and let go into the world, we're already positioned to where those accidents more than likely will turn into serendipity. Whereas if you're not, if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and are working 3 jobs and don't have time to listen to this podcast or give a shit about this podcast, then the accidents, you know, if you're just saying yes to things randomly or whatever, are probably going to not work out too well for you, you know? Like your life has to be much more about like strict discipline, removing yourself from things like it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm really big on this whole concept of like everything in life is just an accident. And in fact, like there's this wonderful Buddhist teacher, Ujjayami Roshi, who talks about life being an accidental reality. Like thoughts that come into our mind are all accidents. Like if they weren't, you'd be able to control them, right? I mean, think, when's the last time you actually had control over a thought? No, they just randomly come in and you're like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, get out. And sometimes they're great and you welcome them, but most of the time they're just like a bad roommate up there. And that's like circumstances in life as well. I mean, there are very few kind of, you know, there's the accidental reality and then there's the true reality or the real reality. And there are very few things that are true. Change, death. You know, like there are not very many things that you can actually put into the bucket of things that are real. In my mind, everything is largely an accident. So I don't know if that was the direction you wanted to go, but like, I do think that there is an important thing to talk about here, that when people like us are talking on these podcasts, it is reflecting a slice of the population, a demographic that has had all of these collective experiences that has set us up to experience serendipity. And that is largely not fair, right? I mean, sometimes I feel bad about it, even though like I'm trying to use it to do good, but that's not everybody's experience of accident.
So I'm dragging somebody else into this because he framed something in a certain way. And this is there will be, if it's not out by the time this one's out, there will be a soon to follow, just press record with this gentleman, Niels Ribeiro Yamafio. Probably butchering his name again because I'm intimidated by his last name. I can handle Niels. I can't handle the rest of the name. Niels said something to me very similar to what you just said. And he spends a lot of time working with people as part of this organization, Lift, who basically help bring people out of poverty with education around 3 areas.
Yeah.
And he'll say these 3 C's are the critical component to making serendipity not just be another bad accident like you just framed it. Because I think this is massively important to recognize this as public service announcement. Like some people, this isn't real life that you and I are living with this conversation right now. And what he says you need to have cash, access to coaching, like input from people with some experience that can help you guide you forward, maybe not tell you what to do, but help guide you forward with examples of try this, try that, and then community. And until you've established those 3 C's of access to cash, meaning you're not sweating money so badly that you can't make a decision, that then you have access to people to help you with your decision making. And then you have a community of people who will gather around, support, and believe in what you're doing, not in some false way.
Yeah.
In some they're on their own path to way. Until you've instilled that around you, what I'm adding is your layer here of like, serendipity doesn't mean anything to you unless you've established those 3 poles, those 10 poles. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, just a couple miles away from me, and I mean, more than a couple miles is like, the west side of Dayton. And I mean, I just think of like this kind of, I mean, the circumstances that kids are growing up there. I mean, it's a food desert, and there's been efforts to go in and put grocery stores in and everything, but just that's exactly what they need. But like, they don't need like me to like show up once and then I'd be like, I feel like, I've done my public service because I've gone into like an inner city and like helped out one day or whatever. Like they need consistent presence. They need connections. I mean, like, what is life? I tell my son this all the time, I don't think I've ever once, besides my first job, interviewed for a job. I've only gotten jobs or gotten business from people that I know or people that know other people. And so when you grow up in that family on the other side of the spectrum, like who do you know that is going to kind of, put you in that next position, to put you in the next position, to then benefit from the serendipity and get to meet the Matt Zieglers of your life, And so those connections are so important. And there's some amazing people like in the city that are doing that. The guy, Scott McGowan, who I should get on your podcast. I mean, he spends a tremendous amount of time, like really trying to immerse himself in these communities. So kids know that they have a champion that, like, if they come up to him and they're like, hey, I need someone that can help me with X, Y, Z, he's going to be there. Like he continues to show up again and again and again. But that happens, it's few and far between as far as how much that happens. And I think that's the reason why the divide just keeps kind of moving further apart, or at least in my perception, But those three, I couldn't agree more, but it's, and I can't wait to see the Just Press Record with this gentleman, because anyone that is doing that, it's like, I'm doing the best that I can with the skills and abilities I have. And that I think that the best manifestation of that is data for the people. But like, people like that are the true heroes. Like I'm hiding behind a computer, and putting out stuff, poking the bear, that kind of stuff. But if you're really getting out in the community, like those are the people I look up to, not our celebrities or Elon Musks of the world that give a shit about them. Like, but people like that I want to hear more stories about people like that. So I'm more inspired about humanity.
Niels was an introduction from when you came on Just Press Record. This was the person that Rachel actually said to me,
oh my gosh,
I need you to get. So here, there's serendipity for you.
Yeah.
Okay, another part, because now my brain's replaying the conversation that I had with him about this. The framing that I'm thinking of is helping people to get to that point, like get to the level in life where serendipity can start to be that's the threshold where serendipity can be a good thing and no longer a bad thing. I'm reminded of a metaphor that I go back to over and over and over again from Rory Sutherland, the great Spectator column he wrote of raising the threshold for crappiness. Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not.
All right, this is as Rory Sutherland, like catnip for the ADHD mind. He basically tells the story of Starbucks coffee infiltrating, and you were, at least in the United States, you experienced this. Do you remember in, say, the 90s, and you'd go to a gas station or a diner and the coffee pot would have just like sludge would come out?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an integral part of growing up in that era, is you remember coffee pot sludge, or being like, no one would get the coffee at most McDonald's.
Yeah. Sure.
Because it was dangerous. Get a soda. They're not equipped. So his point was that once Starbucks came out, everybody was worried about like, oh, it's a $3 cup of coffee. Like, this is insane or whatever else. But he's like, what that actually did is Starbucks raised what the acceptable level, the level of crappiness was. So forget that you introduced a high-end product. What you actually did is you got Cumberland Farms and Turkey Hill and Valero and all the gas stations to go, I guess if we just don't sell sludge, if we just drink a worthwhile cup of coffee, we can charge $1 for it instead of 50 cents.
Yeah.
Increase our margin and people will come here instead of Starbucks or Dunkin' or whatever else. And so this insight that sometimes people chase the high end, but really all you have to do is raise the threshold of crappiness. And yes, I'm arguing for this as a societal good. I feel like you have to raise the threshold of crappiness to where serendipity is a positive for people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's, and I really think just kind of focusing on those 3 C's, will help a lot. Because right now, it's like, again, the accidents that come into my life, if we do subscribe to this view, which I fully do, that life is just one series of accidents,
Sure. Because then that's all of life. You're regarding everything down to your thoughts to what happens to you on the way to get that cup of coffee.
Yeah. Right. Many of them, just with my position in life, are going to be positive if I'm open to them.
Mood. Meaningless. Yeah. Or like mood, as an accident, it's like, never think of it again. The dog barked at the guy on the way out the door today. And only because I need to like parse a level of personal detail in this. You've shared a version of this with me before, which is Like you think about why you're here, the series of accidents that lead to the one that people remember. People always remember one big accident.
Yeah.
You told me this crazy story about just even like your mom and how you're here. She's no longer here too. Can you
Yeah.
piece that together real quick?
Yeah. I mean, I think over time, we all have, as you were mentioning, like we all have these kind of like, responded to that one ad. And then just because of the random paper that showed up that shouldn't have, and then like, now I'm here, right? Or with Bill Gates, where like he just happened to have a computer, which was very random at that time, like in his school. And then now he's Bill Gates and everything. But in reality, those accidents, like our minds, since they're so flawed from like, they always want to assign cause and effect to everything. So it's like, that happened, then this happened. But in reality, there are accidents happening like literally every second, or probably multiple ones per second. We just don't notice them. We don't remember them because most of them seem inconsequential. But like every decision is really an accident that we're making. Everything that's happening, every externality. And they're really, it's like there's the one we remember for whatever arbitrary reason. And then it's like moving, the set point around and everything. And then boom, something happens. But that thing would not have happened without all of those other things happening before, right? I mean, it would have been slightly different or whatever. So what really kind of like shocks me out of all of this is I could go back to like the one accident that for me is the reason that I'm here. And it like literally was an accident. Like my mom had the love of her life, at least before she met my father. If my father ever listens to this, I should probably caveat with that. So was this gentleman when she was, I guess, in her teens or early 20s. He got in a motorcycle accident and died. And so more than likely she would have been his life partner. I don't know what happened on that day. Made one quick little turn, took his eye off the road, some accident, right? Dead. Then she meets my dad. And then boom, I'm here. Now I'm talking to you. I have 3 kids. They're going off, doing what they're doing, whatever. I mean, it was like this entire branch of like the metaverse tree or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that happened within that one instant. But that's happening all the time. And that's happened to every single one of us, which I think like also, whenever I think of myself as too important, I'm like, ooh, I'm pretty smart today. That was a good visualization I put together. I'm like, you're a fucking accident. Like, you shouldn't even be here. Like, right? I mean, that guy had died in a motorcycle accident. So it is a nice kind of like counterbalance whenever we kind of think we're like a little too, like, think back, go talk to your parents. And then realize how much of an accident you are and like how, arbitrary all this is. And then it just helps me not take myself too seriously.
I should kind of say, like, there is, to the clip that you played, like, I think that for people that are in a state of privilege, like us, if you are like wrecked by anxiety or fear or, golden handcuffs or whatever, that clip is essential for you, right? Because it's basically saying, like, if you break free of that stuff, then you open yourself up to the natural positive accidents that could happen, that could lead your life in a much better, happier, healthier direction, right? So that I shouldn't dismiss that like immediately, like I did. Like that is very important. But yeah, it's like, how do we get more people into that bucket where if we can free from the shackles of our own mind, the accidents that don't come are the ones where I like walk down the street and then get arrested, or I walk down the street and I get shot. But because like, I'm just going to go for a walk today and clear my mind. Like, if that's the neighborhood that I live in, like, it's not a good accident. Right. And so how do we kind of, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't know if the bar of crappiness is the way I would put it, but like,
we should probably rework that branding, but I think the
should
logic is right.
that. Yes.
Okay, let's work.
But it's but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, this is the point of data for the people, right? I fundamentally believe that this country will all together be better off, all of us, if we're all better off, and then maybe that's just because I see myself as so connected to everybody else, or that I could so easily have just switched places with other people that it's unconscionable to just like think that I can wall myself off from the rest of humanity. But like, to the extent that like, I can put out this data and then people can look at it. I mean, my hope is that people look at it and are like, why am I voting against myself? Like, I mean, I'm voting for policies that are hurting me and reducing my chance that I ever will, experience serendipity in my life because I voted for somebody that doesn't want me to get food stamps, which I mean, look, maybe you're in poverty and you're like, screw it, food stamps are for people that are weak. But like, come on. I mean, most people probably would like some help. Because if you get that help, then all of a sudden you have more disposable income to do something else, to get a better education, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can experience serendipity. And so I'm so desperately hoping that, if people can pay attention, that this data will, one, lead to education, but then will also lead to people really rethinking policy, thinking how they're voting, so we can lift everyone up, not just lifting the top, the tippy top up even higher than they need to be, which I don't even know. Like, there is no like ceiling. Like, you could just keep going higher and higher and higher and never be any happier. We all know that, or at least most of us do. But then the higher they get lifted up, the more others get pushed down. And so we're just moving in the wrong direction right now. And if we can focus on those 3 C's and put some energy behind that movement, like I'm all for it. Just let me know what data I can throw into the mix and what sort of analysis I can do, and I'm in.
And it's interesting because in that conversation, the other person who's a part of it, Tyrone Ross, he makes the point of what you just said, of there's a lot of people who they just want to go to the grocery store and not sweat. They want to know that they'll be okay. He's talking about his mom too. Like, I want to know I can go to a doctor's appointment and not sweat that I'm going to get the service that I need to just take it. I don't need $1 bajillion. I don't even need $1 million. I just need to know that my lifestyle is going to be okay. And that becomes the threshold for this. Inside of it, and I used, the Dissect podcast and some Kendrick quotes sort of tongue in cheek at the beginning, just because I knew that would make you smile.
I appreciate it.
But now I'm thinking about that whole idea of the aspirational qualities of, like, I want serendipity to exist because I want the aspirational qualities of potentially being a star, a celebrity, rich, all those dreams. Do you feel like that aspirational part of serendipity, we're never going to get rid of it? How does that play into, because it does get weaponized and it does get set up as a very dangerous framing device. Rationalize this on the spot.
It's hard to ever see this country not to let go of that aspirational thing, because I think it's led to so much of the success, what you're calling. I mean, the situation doesn't feel too successful right now, but this whole kind of like, the United States of Las Vegas, which is kind of what it feels like. I mean, that's kind of what we stand for. And we have the benefits and the wealth and kind of the works to show for it as well. I'm sorry. You got to ask that question again, because that's so deep. Like that was the first thing that came to mind, but I want to go deeper than that.
No, and I'll actually put the highlighter on the United States of Las Vegas. Because I think this ties to financial nihilism and all these topics as well. If you say you should be okay with having less because there's a lottery ticket of aspiration available to you, and the cost of you being less is access to the lottery ticket, that's a raw deal.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's just hard to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I think I was going with this. Is like, it's a hard process to like break out of the matrix, right? But we have so many examples that are out there. Like, that's why I love Kendrick, because he is an example that he's like, look, I've been there. I've done it. I've been depressed. Like, I was worse off. Like, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics of J. Cole, you listen to all these guys, it's like they came from nothing. They had fame, fortune, wealth. And they're like, this did not satisfy or scratch any itch. I just
Didn't
have
fill the
new
hole.
problems. And so it's like, okay, well, all right, there's a data point. Like I'm ultimately a data analyst. And then I've had my own experience that I can reflect on of like, I know how poor I was in college. Like, everyone's poor in college, right? And then now, like, I have the cars and the house and like whatever it is. And so, you know, maybe I don't have nearly as much as, you know, some of my kids' classmates' parents or something like that, or, you know, whatever, the other neighbor. But I have way more than like 20-year-old Eric could have ever dreamed of. And then, you know, until I really stopped caring about this as much, like, I was far more depressed than 20-year-old Eric. And so it's like, I wrote this piece on reclaiming soulfulness about awareness is all we can control. And I don't think I did a great job on that, because I think it was the second piece that I ever wrote. But it's like, it's the most true statement that I can like think of in life, besides this whole accidental thing. I mean, what if we actually pointed our awareness at like the process of getting things, and then the high, and then the quickly diminishing kind of high, and then the low, and then the emptiness of needing to fill it with the next thing or the next project or whatever. Like, once you start doing that over and over again, you're like, this is lunacy if I keep doing this. Like, this is insane. Like, I don't want to die. Like, going back to my mom, I don't want to die freaking lunatic. And so choose to just be like, all right, there's another way, right? And the other way is not minimalism. Like, I think that's the problem, is like, we just kind of say like, you know, everything is like polarized, right? So it's either like, you know, I'm super materialistic or I'm a minimalist. No, there's like I'm going to enjoy nice things if I can have them, but I'm not going to get attached to them. I don't need them to fill some like deep black hole within my soul that will never be filled with that. And then just go and look at like, I mean, look, you think Elon Musk is happy? You think Donald Trump is happy? I mean, when you spend most of your life hating and spouting hatred in like thousands of tweets a day, they must be miserable. And so you have the wealthiest people on this planet, the most powerful people on this planet, that to me, you know, I've said this in one of my posts as well, are our teachers. Like, what if we really pay attention? I don't know anyone that spouts hatred all day that is a super happy person. Now, you may have, like the Elon Musks or the Donald Trumps of the world or whomever, they have enough funds to continue to drown that black hole. They continue to fill it. But then you just become Jeffrey Epstein, right? I mean, like, that's where that goes. That's where that leads. So, you know, there's so many teachers out there, but we still are wired evolutionarily. We're like freaking broken. Like, we're still wired to want it. Like, we're like, well, how did Epstein become who he was? Well, he was a rich motherfucker, and like, he just thought he could do whatever he wanted with women, and he thought he could get away with anything. Well, I want to be rich. I want to be powerful. It's like, wait a second. No, those were key variables that led him down the wrong path. Like, why would you ever want that?
It's supervillain logic. That's what it is. It's, I can fix the world. I know the way the whole world should be.
It won't happen to me. How many times have I talked to somebody? Oh no, I'll know when it's just if I get to this next step. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work that way. Like, I mean, people figured this out 2,500 years ago. Like, entire religions were formed based on this. We haven't changed. You know, it doesn't work. So give up on it trying to work. And then you start the rest of your battle throughout life to try to actually accept that. Because like, no matter how much the logic makes sense to me, I still walk down the street and then I'm like, I want that. You know, and I'm like, oh God, stop. And then they're like, oh, but what about that? Oh, stop. You know, it's just, you feel insane, right? I mean, once you remove yourself from the matrix, like when Neo removed himself from the matrix, he was pretty crazy, right? I mean, like, he wasn't, you know, well balanced or anything. And I can tell you in my life, I will never get to the point where I'm like dodging bullets, stopping things and flying. Like, I'm not going to get to that. I'm like in that in-between phase where Neo was a mess, and I'll just sit there for the rest of my life, and that will be good enough.
That'll be good enough. I think it's important to both understand that the threshold that has to occur before serendipity can be okay. For serendipity, kismet, whatever you want to call it, before it can happen. You got to get to that threshold. And then I think it's important to understand that threshold it doesn't put you in a constant state either. I'm going to pick on Elie for just a second on this. Like, Elie tells that story about how the last call it 25 years of his life are based on an ad in the New Yorker that he almost tongue-in-cheek responded to, like almost unseriously responded to an opportunity that ended up creating his entire career.
Yeah.
And yet he's spent the last several years, like post-COVID, like reimagining what that entire career looks like and refiguring out how he fits into the world in yet another way. So it's like you have to raise this bar so that serendipity is not going to kill you. It still will suck sometimes. You will get dealt nasty, nasty hands. You will lose someone you love like you went through. Like shit will happen. But then you're going to get that lift. And then the trick is just how do you not get destroyed after you get raised up from there too? It's, I don't even know if there's a question inside of that, which is what do you make of this? But I don't even know if I'm describing what I'm trying to put my arms around right now in that statement.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a point, and it's like you feel like you're on a tightrope though, and or like some balance.
There you go.
You're always falling one way or another. And for the longest period of time, I felt so uncomfortable on that balance beam, like the enough balance, right?
Yes.
Where I always felt like I was like leaning one way or another. And then it hit me that like life is the balancing process. It's not about balance. Like you never actually, we got to drop all hopes and aspirations of ever finding balance.
Yeah.
Like
It's a myth.
if you are standing there static, and like anybody that tells you that they've been enlightened to the point where like it's bullshit. They're probably trying to sell you something, right? So you're always just like this and this and this. And like the days that are bad for me are the days where I fight it. I'm just like, I don't want, you know? And the days that are good are the days where I'm just like, whip me around. I'm okay with it. Like, and this is it. It gets no better than this. There is no fixing this. There is no changing this. Those are the best days when I am just okay being human, because that's what it is. But I think that there has to be this kind of conscious evolution to where we all are like, what is enough? And that may be different for everybody in life. I'm not judging to say like that my enough is your enough or whatever. Some people may need the Mercedes, you know, because they're car freaks and it brings them so much joy. That's wonderful. You should get a Mercedes.
You should totally do it.
Whatever. Do it. Like, I don't know. I'm not a car person. It doesn't mean anything to me. But I just bought some super fancy trekking poles. I really need those. Like, I really want them to be happy, right? And so I'm not judging. Like, I'm just saying that like everybody has their own state. But then do you also need the yacht? And do you also need the mega mansion? Do you also need this? And do you also need that? Or like, if you didn't have all these things, which then, by the way, don't pretend that you get the yacht. And then it's like, well, then there's the maintenance of the yacht. Then there's what if the yacht sinks? Then there's the worry about the things. Like the more things you have, the more worry there just generally is. Like, what's the opportunity cost of all that? Like, you could be taking that time that you're worrying about all your stuff, and then instead, the stuff that doesn't bring you joy or happiness, right? And then instead be like, you know, am I going to get involved in Big Brothers or Big Sisters and become that mentor? Because like, we can't fix this problem, you and I, of increasing the 3 C's or raising that bar. But like, look, if you and I both went out and became a big brother, then one person would have a connection. And if you were one, man, they'd have a lot of connections. They'd have a little bit fewer with me. But I mean, like, seriously, right? And so one person would have a leg up. And that's really maybe all that it would take to get the serendipity started for them. And then the point is like, that's as good as we can do. Like at the end of the day, like Ray Dalio just put out a post, which I loved. And he's like, we're everything and we're nothing at the same time. So like that, you doing that or me doing that is everything for that one person that we're touching. But then it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So, and we have to be okay with that. We just have to be okay that we're insignificant specks at the end of the day, and everything to the people that really care about us at the same time. But then I'm always like, and this is another great thing about Buddhism, is like most of the goals and intentions will take what's called kalpas, which is like eons. So you set a goal immediately when you basically say, okay, you know, I'm going to do this thing, right? You will die before you achieve that goal. It's the most liberating thing to do, by the way. Set a goal that you will die before you achieve. That's my one recommendation. In fact, like I know you always put like some little kind of quote on like use that one. Set a goal that you die before you achieve. Because once you do that, you're like, oh, cool. Well, the point of this is just to push the ball. And then collectively, we all can kind of get behind and push that ball. Like maybe my son's going to push the ball and my other son's going to push the ball, or somebody that watches this podcast is going to push the ball. And then one day I'll die off. And no one needs to remember that I was pushing the ball because it doesn't matter. But like other people will continue to push the ball, and our species and our civilization will continue to like thrive, if we all, try to at least spend our time doing something good. But I think we think of ourselves as too permanent and, like I need to be remembered like this, or I need to see this accomplished before I die. Like screw all that. I mean, it's just so limiting. It's so limiting. I mean, you set your sights way too low if it's just a one lifetime.
You've completely flipped the way I was originally hearing Eric Markowitz's statement about the permanent value of serendipity, in the sense of like, yes, it's that the only thing constant is change. The only thing that's always here is change. Let's play the game. I wrote down my answer. I'm not feeling as good about it after this conversation as I was when I wrote it down when I invited you on. Why do you think I wanted to show you this clip today?
I think you wanted to show it to me because I have been the beneficiary and recipient of tremendous amount of serendipity throughout my career. I've maybe it's my neurodivergence, whatever you want to call it, but I'm constantly looking and trying something new. And it's brought me to a point in life that, I'm a chemical engineer originally. I don't do anything related to. And so it's brought me to like a whole other universe. And so I think that's the reason why you wanted me to see it, is because like I've just been kind of hopscotching along this random place and looking back and like have no idea how I've even gotten to where I am.
You're not wrong in that. And what I wrote down, and I want to justify this, I'm going to, post hoc rationalize for a second. I wrote down serendipity, friends, and taking mad chances.
Yeah. Okay.
That was what I originally thought. I want to expand on that though. That is because I think the serendipity, like when serendipity matters definition that we got to right here was incredibly powerful and not surprising, serendipitous, and that it was incredibly timely. I've been thinking about this all day since I had this conversation that, again, this is a plug for a Just Press Record that's coming out in close proximity of when this one will come out with Tyrone and Niels. But it's this idea of that, like, we have to raise that threshold as a bar. That's a societal goal. That's one we probably won't fix in our lifetime. But that's something I feel called to help contribute to in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Is like just make some stuff knock into each other that wasn't going to knock into each other that has a positive impact. That's the entire message of this podcast. Yeah. The entire goal.
Yeah.
These two balls might not knock into each other in the black ether of space if I don't go out there and do it. But to your point, pulling that forward, and I think friends, I want to expand it to coaches, consultants, people, big brothers, big sisters, who are helping to do this, because yes, it's a mad, mad, mad world.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. It's all we can do. Try to make it a little bit better for ourselves and for others. The balancing act of enough. I love that metaphor.
Yeah. And I wouldn't, if my goal is stable employment, a pension, whatever, making tech millions, whatever. Yeah, maybe this is a mad chance, but like I told you, like that's not my goal in life anymore. I've chased that goal with no fulfillment for so long, to where now it's like I'm almost kind of painting myself into a corner on purpose to basically be like, my true goal is to help push that ball, right? To help push that ball as long as I breathe, and then die. And then someone else will keep pushing the ball. Hopefully I've inspired other people to push the ball with the work that I'm doing. And so this is not a chance. I mean, it would be taking a chance to do something different. Like what I'm doing right now is the only logical and rational thing for me to do at this point, unless I just went and worked for the Park Service and everything. But like I've thought about that. I thought about being like, throw it all away. I just want to go help nature or whatever. But I have been gifted like a really, really weird, random skill set. And I'm just thinking like, how do I do as much good as I possibly can with it? and I'll regret. I mean, it would be a mad chance to not do it because I would have tremendous regret if I just stayed silent, at this point in my career and life. So I don't know. I think like everything that I've done has been to kind of, fill the void. And then eventually, once I realized the void couldn't be filled, it was like, okay, well, now what can I do that has the potential to make any money that can help achieve the real goal, which will last way beyond my lifetime.
This is why we need you in the world, Eric. I want to have you just tell the people they want to find you, bug you on the internet. Where should they look you up these days? We got to make sure we get Reclaiming Soulfulness and Data for the People in there, but plug away.
Yeah, sure. So on LinkedIn, it's just Eric Pachman. On X or Twitter, it's also Eric Pachman.
Yep.
I have not figured out how to use Instagram or TikTok yet, but it is on my list to do. So keep an eye out there for Data for the People, because I really need to get this stuff to Gen Z. I think they're going to love it, stuff that I'm working on. So I will be there eventually. And more than likely it will be under Data for the People, and with Data for number 4, the people. The website is Data for the People with a number 4. Right now you'll just see the coming soon page up, but hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have all the content up and everything, at least on this initial deep dive into SNAP and poverty data. And my personal blog is Reclaiming Soulfulness. It's just like a whole bunch of random stuff off the top of my head. A lot of the things that we talked about, my musings on life, my views. I don't take any responsibility for what you do with them, but I really do want to share them. I mean, it's almost kind of like having it as for posterity's sake for my kids and grandkids. And then everybody else can use them or toss them out, whatever they want with them.
You're leading by a great example, and I'm super excited to see what you do next, because you're leaning into this area. You're not just going to work for the Parks Department. You're trying to contribute something more. No disrespect to the Parks Department.
Yeah.
We need those people too. But if you're at the Parks Department and you feel like you can do more, this is what stuff like this is for. Like, get out there, do that little more. If you want to do it and it's for a good purpose, I want to encourage more of that in the world. I'm going to put links to all these things in the comments, and of course at cultishcreative.com. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all the things below. That's Eric Pachman. I'm Matt Ziegler. You're watching Cultish Creative on YouTube, and we are out. Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Ziegler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.